Yeah, welcome everybody to the next in our Agency Masters webinar series. Today we're looking at the Great Pricing Reset. Before we start, for those of you who don't know me or Kate or haven't joined on previous webinars, I'm Steve. I'm a director here at Synergist, which for those of you who don't know is the UK's leading agency management system. As usual, I'm joined by Kate, my webinar co-host. Kate is a principal consultant here at Synergist.
You
Slight
knew
faux
you were
pas
going to
there.
say
At
that.
Synergist, but has also had years of experience working in agencies in ops and finance roles, Kate.
Yes, indeed, I have.
So thanks for joining me once again. This session we're slated to finish at half past, which it should last just over 20 odd minutes or so. So hopefully plenty of time for you to grab a brew before your next meeting. Okay, so value-based pricing. We know it's all been talked about for years in agency circles. Conferences, LinkedIn posts, and lots of consultants who tell us to stop selling time and to start selling value. And for a long time, most agencies would listen politely and then carry on charging day rates. Because even if the model wasn't perfect, it still worked well enough. Your clients understood it, your teams were built around it, and forecasting definitely relied on it. And honestly, value-based pricing often felt a little bit abstract. So interesting in theory, but difficult in practice. But then AI arrived, and suddenly the cracks in the time-based pricing become impossible to ignore because the faster you work, the less revenue you generate, and the more efficient your tools become, the harder it is to justify the hours. And clients are starting to ask pretty reasonable questions like, well, if it's taking half the time, why am I still paying the same? So this isn't a future problem anymore. It's happening right now. So the conversation has shifted from should we explore value-based pricing to how do we evolve our pricing model? Because we need to start doing that now before it works against us. So today's session, what we're talking about is why AI has made time-based pricing much harder to defend, how to rethink what you're actually selling, how to position expertise so price becomes a secondary conversation, what value-based pricing looks like in practice, and most importantly, how to make the transition without blowing up clients and commercial models that you've already have. Because this isn't about throwing away everything overnight. It's about building a pricing model that rewards expertise, efficiency, and outcomes instead of penalizing them. So, when agencies and consultancies start thinking about AI and pricing, there are only really three directions to go in. Option one, you do it cheaper. If AI helps you deliver work faster, then you can reduce the price to reflect the reduced effort. So, on surface, that sounds pretty fair. The problem is it creates a dangerous precedent because once pricing becomes tied purely to production time, every efficiency gain reduces your revenue potential. So the better the tools become, the less you can charge. And the more experienced your team becomes, the more you compress your own margins. And eventually you end up in a race to the bottom where clients expect continuous reductions, competitors undercut each other, and expertise gets treated like a commodity. And that's not a sustainable commercial model for most agencies. Excuse me.
And the second option is do more for the same price. So this is where a lot of businesses will naturally move next. You keep pricing relatively stable, but you increase the amount of value wrapped around that delivery. So more strategic input, excuse me, faster turnaround, more iterations, additional reporting, broader recommendations, and a better service experience. And to be fair, this is a much healthier approach than go cheaper because now AI is helping you create leverage instead of simply reducing billable hours. But there's still a limitation here. You're improving profitability operationally without necessarily improving how the market values what you do. So you're still anchored to the old pricing logic. So yes, your margins may improve internally, but you're not fully capturing the upside of becoming dramatically better, faster, and more effective at delivering outcomes.
Then finally, option three, and this is the real mindset shift. The argument is pretty simple. Faster doesn't mean less valuable. So if you've got a consultant that solves a 500k business problem in 2 days instead of 2 weeks, the value of the outcome hasn't gone down. In many cases, it's gone up because clients are not really buying your hours or meetings or decks or production time. They're buying your expertise, your judgment, confidence, reduced risk, speed of outcome, and definitely commercial impact. Now, AI changes how the work gets done. It doesn't automatically reduce the value of the result. And that's really what this session is about. How do you reposition your pricing around outcomes instead of effort, expertise instead of time, and commercial value instead of production hours? Because the agencies that figure that out early will protect both their margins and the positioning as AI continues to reshape delivery.
And most of us have heard the advice, move to value-based pricing. Stop selling time, start agreeing a percentage performance price. And it's been the advice of every agency conference for the last 10 years. And most of us, myself included, have sat in the audience, nodded, and thought, interesting, but practically unworkable. The clients won't agree to it, it's hard to attribute, and it kind of creates weird dynamics. So today we're going to talk about that shift, what that shift actually looks like in practice, and we're talking about value-based pricing in the real sense. So fixed price anchored to scope and outcome. And that's something hopefully practical that you can start actually doing this week.
So, what are your clients actually paying for? Well, your agency was never really selling time. Time was only ever the container for the value you created, not the thing you were truly selling. And value-based pricing isn't a new way of charging. It's finally charging for what you've always actually been delivering. So let's have a look at what clients are actually paying for. First of all, you've got proven frameworks and methodology. This is the structured way that your agency approaches a brief, a strategy, or a creative problem. And that's built and refined over years. Clients are buying access to a way of thinking that gets better results. That's yours. No one else has it. AI has no methodology. It optimizes for what's already worked. Then you've got real creative thinking, the kind of creative that only comes from genuinely understanding people, what moves them, what they care about, or what will make them feel something. That requires human empathy, cultural instinct, and the courage to back something original. AI can't feel cultural moment. It can't read the room. It can't inspire. It can only generate. Also, you've got years of cross-sector experience. The judgment that comes from working across dozens of clients, markets, and briefs. Knowing what works because you've seen what hasn't. We also know that AI hallucinates. It presents fiction as fact with complete confidence. So someone with real experience knows what to verify, what to challenge, and what to throw out entirely. And then you've got accountability. Someone who owns the outcome and will push back when the brief is wrong. AI will often agree with you. Good agencies don't always. And finally, the ability to get it done. Most clients don't have the time or the team to do it themselves. They need somebody who takes it off their plate and delivers something worth having.
Now, the honest answer to the question some of your clients are already asking. You're using AI, surely it costs you less now. And some of it, yes, first drafts, research, initial concepts. AI has made all of those things faster and cheaper. But experience, the frameworks, the creative judgment, the accountability, none of that got cheaper. And that's what they're paying for. And that's what a chat GBT subscription doesn't give you. I always get muddled up with that chat GBT. Sound like Boris Johnson. So think of it like this. AI is like a very fast, very capable producer. It can output at speed and volume, but it still needs someone experienced to direct it, judge it, and take it somewhere it couldn't get to alone. So that skill, knowing what good looks like, knowing when AI has it wrong, sits with your people, the experts trained in their craft, copywriters who know how language works, designers who know what good looks like, and those strategists who know how to frame a problem. AI is the tool, they're the ones who know how to use it. So, yes, some of this is cheaper to produce. Your clients aren't paying you to upload their brief into chat. They could do that themselves. They're paying for the expertise, craft, and judgment to take them somewhere that chat can't. And the save time goes into doing the work better, not into a discount.
So, how do we define the value of the client? Well, I think the best thing to do is to ask more questions than you can answer. And the three questions that do the most work, I believe, include these. And the first one is, what does success look like? It's very specific, it's not vague. So it might be something like a brand that consistently works across their channels, or a website that converts better than the one they're replacing, or a campaign that gets cut through in a new market. So the clearer the picture, the stronger your position. Also, what happens if this doesn't work? And this is the one that most agencies skip. Understanding the cost of the problem you're solving anchors the client's thinking on value, not price. And then, what's the commercial upside? So you don't need to price against it, but understanding what the project is worth to your client means that you're pricing from context, not just from picking a number out of thin air. So use these questions to understand the brief and position yourself as somebody who thinks about their business, not just about their deliverable.
And before you land on a number, you need to know your floor. So you still need to estimate time and costs internally, not to dictate the price, but to make sure you break even. How long will this actually take? Who's going to be working on it? What are the third-party costs? Everything above that floor is your margin. Your estimate is also your resource and your capacity forecast. It's how you know whether you have the right people available and whether you can take the work on it all. The estimate doesn't go away under the value pricing, sorry. It just stops being the thing you show the client. So once you know your floor and you've had the value conversation, it needs to show up in how you propose the work. So most agencies write proposals that describe what they're going to do. So a list of deliverables, formats, rounds of amends. The client reads it and thinks, am I getting enough for that price? The shift is to describe what it's going to achieve, and those are very different things. So 12 social posts and an email campaign is what you're going to do. A campaign to get your product in front of the right buyers before the quarter closes is what you're going to achieve. So it's the same work, it's just differently framed. The first version invites the client to count things and decide if they're getting enough. The second invites them to decide if it will work. And that's the conversation that you want, because if they believe you will deliver, they'll be able to deliver the work, the number of the posts is completely irrelevant.
Very true. But what if a competitor is cheaper? And this is the one that makes most agencies panic. Your competitor is quoted less, typically on a day rate. There is a temptation to match it or to justify why yours is your price. Don't. They're selling time. You're selling a defined outcome priced on expertise. So the unit of measure is different because the offer is different. So bring the client back to the deliverable. Did the brief change? Did the quality drop? Did what you're delivering become less valuable? If none of these things have changed, then the price hasn't changed. So some clients obviously will still choose the cheaper option, but we know that the ones who buy on price alone are rarely the clients who value what you do. What you're building is a client base that buys on expertise. Those clients often stay longer, push back less, and hopefully refer more.
And here's the big question that comes up every time we talk about moving away from time-based pricing. If we're not charging for time, do we still need timesheets? Yes. And this is where a lot of agencies get confused. Sometimes because their software doesn't help by treating the estimate and the quote as the same number. They're not. The quote is what you charge the client, anchored to the outcome, not the hours. Timesheets are how you find out whether your resource estimate was correct. Did the job take what you thought it would? Were the right people on it for the right amount of time? And from a net profit perspective, that's critical, because if you don't track the time actually spent delivering the work, you can't see your true net profit on a project. Revenue alone doesn't tell you whether a job is healthy. Profitability comes from understanding the real delivery cost behind it. Timesheets also show you things that you might not want to see. So, where is time being wasted? It'll also show you who's been overworked and who's underutilized, where the scope has crept in quietly without anybody flagging it. So timesheets aren't a billing mechanism anymore. They're how you keep your resourcing and your profitability honest.
Can't believe we're promoting a timesheet system. I'm shocked. Anyway, so fine. So what about the clients you've had for years who are pretty much used to the way that you quote at the moment, maybe by day rate? Well, I would suggest that we don't try and flip everything at once. Make it a gradual process. So perhaps looking at your last five projects, what did you charge versus what it actually cost you to deliver it? Going back to what Kate said about capturing time. Where's the gap? That's your starting point. Then find one upcoming project and then price it as a fixed deliverable, scoped around what it's going to achieve, priced on expertise, not on hours. So I would start here. But I would also prepare for that day rate question. Write down how you're going to handle it and how you're going to respond, but do it before you send the numbers, not after you've done it. So none of this requires massive kind of company-wide overhaul overnight. It just requires being started. So here's the honest truth about everything we've covered today. It's not really about pricing. The pricing model, fixed price, anchored to scope, the outcome, that's almost the easy bit. You can change that this week, as Kate said. What's harder is this shift that has to happen before any of that. How you walk into a meeting, what questions you ask, how you talk about what you do and why it matters. Most agency people don't like to think of themselves as salespeople. In fact, I know most of them actively resist the idea. But here's the thing. If you can't articulate your value clearly, confidently, and in the client's language, no pricing model in the world will save you. The best proposal structure means nothing if the conversation that precedes it hasn't already established what the work is worth. So what we're really talking about is being able to say with complete confidence, here's the problem we solve, here's what it's worth, and here's why we're the right people to do it. Not apologetically, not buried in a task list, front and center before price is even mentioned. That's not selling in the way that most agency people fear it. It's being clear about your value. And clarity, as it turns out, is the best commercial skill an agency can have. Get that right, and the pricing takes care of itself. And if you want to work on the selling side of how that works with your team, that's something we're proposing to do in a future webinar, so do watch this space. Okay, so let's wrap up the three things that we really want you to take away from what we've covered today.
So the first one is price the outcome, not the hours, not the effort, not how many people worked on it. Your client isn't buying time, they're buying a result. They're buying speed, confidence, clarity, growth, reduced risk, better performance, or a problem solved faster than they could solve it themselves. That means the value of the work isn't determined on how long it takes you. In fact, becoming more efficient should increase your profitability, not reduce it. The shift is moving from how many hours will this take to what is the outcome worth to the client? And that's where value-based pricing starts.
Number two, even when you price around value, you still need the strong commercial discipline internally. You should absolutely estimate time, resources, delivery costs before you quote anything at all. Not because you're charging by the hour, but because you need to understand your minimum viable margin. The estimate becomes your internal floor. It tells you what the work is likely to cost you, how much delivery capacity it consumes, and whether the engagement is commercially viable before you even send the proposal. Because value-based pricing isn't guesswork. It's strategic pricing built on operational awareness. And the best agencies and consultancies know both the value to the client and the true cost to deliver.
And last but not least, something that we like to bang on quite a lot about actually, estimate does not equal quote. So this is one of the biggest mindset shifts. So your estimate is internal, your quote is external. So the client sees the price, they do not need to see your delivery maths, contingency assumptions, internal margins, or your utilization calculations. The estimate exists to help you protect your margin, allocate resources properly, forecast profitability, and understand whether the work is performing commercially once delivery starts. And this matters because too many businesses still blur the line between pricing and costing. So costing tells you what the work takes, pricing reflects the outcome, what the outcome is worth. And those are not the same thing. So the agencies that scale profitability understand this difference.